Welcome to Independent Sources. I'm Vianora Vinca. This is the premiere of our new weekly edition. Now, Independent Sources will bring you more news and views from the ethnic media with a new episode every Wednesday. And from now through November, we'll have special election coverage. Find out what the ethnic media is reporting about the presidential candidates and the campaigns. On this week's edition, we'll hear about challenges and achievements from reporters who went to the conventions in Denver and St. Paul under the auspices of the New York Community Media Alliance and New America Media. Independent Sources co-host Garry Pierre-Pierre talks presidential politics with the editor of New York's Pakistan Post. And we profile a reporter for a Chinese-language newspaper who went from City Hall to the convention halls. But first, when journalists from New York's ethnic and independent media traveled to the Democratic and Republican conventions, Independent Sources went with them. Producer Zyphus Lebron and videographer Colleen Ivanov recorded some images and impressions.
Welcome, Obama Bump. Welcome to Denver.
There are millions and millions of people across the country who are learning about the election and a lot of other things through ethnic media, not through mainstream journalism.
It is the first time, I must say, these reporters and these publications didn't use just a wire news story from the AP, from the mainstream newswire service. And it's original. We want to do something, promote something original reporting among ethnic media.
When the pundit said my campaign was finished, I said I'd rather lose an election and see my country lose a war.
It's a great opportunity. It's a great opening and it's a great window for the ethnic media to explore the American political system.
$720 million a day. That's how much it costs for us to be in Iraq.
You really have a feeling that you are participating in something much bigger than yourself, and you just hope to the best of your abilities transfer this experience through your writing to your readers.
I'm joined in studio by Sharon Toomer of blackandbrownnews.com, a website focusing on African American and Latino issues, Antoine Faisal of Aramica, an Arab American newspaper, and Anthony Advincula of New America Media, an association of ethnic media organizations from around the country. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. I'm going to quote something from an article that you wrote during the DNC, and you were interviewing a reporter from the Caribbean Life saying, if you don't have a big readership, chances are that your publication won't get credential priority. Is it fair to say then, if some have argued that the ethnic media is at disadvantage in comparison to the mainstream media?
It's apparent that, you know, the ethnic media have been marginalized when it comes to credentialing process. If you apply for a credential, you say you're coming from the Korea Times, you know, you have to pitch the importance of it, why you need to be there. But if you are from the New York Times or Washington Post, I am very sure that you don't need to explain that to them. So that's exactly what was happening. But I was very glad that this director of the credentialing at the DNC, we were able to speak to her, and she said that this is the first time that the credentialing process, they tried it to be very diverse. Our group, which is considerably the first national ethnic network, meaning coming from different states, not just from one specific state, we're lucky that we got like 11 credentials.
Mm-hmm. Antoine Faisal, what was your mission when you went to the DNC as an ethnic media journalist?
I didn't have a mission. I don't think I qualified it as going on a mission. But not being able to compete with CNN or Al Jazeera, and knowing that not that many daily Arab newspapers or media will be able to get to the DNC or the RNC conventions to cover it, getting the opportunity to go there and witness firsthand what's going on at this historic time of the United States. I thought that was a unique experience. In January or in December, I went to New Hampshire with colleagues of mine. Many candidates were saying many things, but at that time talk was cheap. Anything the candidates would say anything to get the votes for the primaries.
And it was different here. Did you
Everything
find it
was counted. Yes, and being from an ethnic media, an ethnic newspaper, my role was to translate what they say in terms of interest to our own community, how the issues will translate to this community.
And Sharon, what did it mean for you? What was the significance of your covering the convention firsthand?
I was really interested in two issues. Of course, there are universal issues that impact all Americans, and so, you know, whether it's the economy, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, foreclosures, but with respect to the Black and Latino community, there are two issues that we thought needed to get some policy input. One being the abysmal achievement gap, and how these people seeking our vote and our support plan to address that. Not so much the catchphrase of education reform, rah rah, but really what are some of the what's some of the philosophy. The second issue that disproportionately affects the Black and Latino community is this incessant amount of violence. And so we wanted to hear from people who are, whether on the state or local level, not necessarily in you know, interviewing Barack Obama or John McCain on the issue. Obviously, we weren't going to do that, but people who advise them, people who surround them.
And so you managed to get the
answers. I was able to get a lot of solid information. I, as the managing editor, have not yet written my report. So I did have bloggers reporting daily, so that was covered. My report's going to be a bit more comprehensive and reflect my observations.
I see. The RNC spokesman, quoted by the New America Media, said that, quote, RNC is working to turn out voters of all races to support McCain.
That wasn't reflected in the arena that I walked around in. I don't know where I mean, that was one of the most evident, and you didn't need a study to tell you that if you were there, that the RNC has a really long way to go in reflecting the diversity of the United States. And to come up with that kind of profile, you have to work really hard to do that. That just doesn't happen.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Every time trees are destroyed to make paper, we lose something that can't be replaced.
You have the power to stop this.
Insist that the paper you buy is tree-free.
Insist on.
Help us win the paper campaign.
Welcome back to Independent Sources. I'm joined by Sharon Toomer, Antoine Faisal, and Anthony Advincula. Anthony, if both candidates are trying to appeal to ethnic minorities, why is it not easier for ethnic press to get credentials for the convention?
The DNC was clearly reaching out to us, but RNC, we didn't get the credentials. And this is very apparent that they are not ready to diversify the media representation at the RNC. They're very focused on mainstream publications. They're very focused on television, primetime, like Fox News, but I don't think they are ready for smaller or ethnic publications.
Antoine, have you interacted with Arab American delegates?
I have, actually. There was a meeting for the delegates and the Arab American leadership that were going there to unify the vision towards what's gonna be, you know, communicated to the party. And I was given access to this meeting. I later on interviewed the people who were either delegates or super delegates or on the committee, because it was new to me. The whole setting was new to me, and at the same time, you know, this is the first, I believe, opportunity that we got since the shock we got when Kerry lost and Bush got elected a second time. Now we have the Arab Americans feel that there is a serious chance that a Democrat might get to the White House, and that we have a chance to voice our opinion as a community, and I was impressed with seeing them there.
Yeah, Sharon?
He said something that triggered a thought. For ethnic and immigrant press, it doesn't really help I don't think our constituents if we're just reiterating what they can get on mainstream press. So we really do, and a lot of times these conventions are big rah-rah sessions. So you're hard-pressed to find even delegates and people who are going to talk about, the issues that don't necessarily, are not necessarily the spin of the party, but really get to the issues that are impacting our constituents. So if you don't even have access to them, meaning I didn't have any access to the delegates or on either side, I had to really do my own due diligence for BBN to point out who are the folks to try to lock down and really not hammer them. I mean, I didn't, go full on with probing and stuff, but some more information than just the spin and the rah-rah of the moment. But we don't really serve, we provide a service of information, and we have to, meaning I'm talking for Black and Brown News, we have to come up with something that they're not going to get anywhere else.
Right. It was challenging.
It was challenging. That's why they need to engage us.
When I went, I thought that we will have, I went with the premise that the Arab Americans have special issues that we need to address. It was a revelation to me that, what, we're no special than any others. Economy, security, immigration, jobs, healthcare.
I'd like to move on to the last question to Sharon. And according to New America Media, Hispanic delegates were underrepresented at the DNC. Is there still a black-brown divide, perhaps, created by the Hillary-Obama race that still shows in the current?
I really don't know where this black-brown divide
You don't think
from.
It existed?
I think that it is less about ethnicity. We have far greater things in common. We are most affected by issues of the achievement gap. We are affected by violence, our neighborhoods. So when I hear about this black-brown divide, I really, I know the source of it, but I just try not to feed into it. What happens is Latinos have been, they favored the Clintons. The Clintons were big with them. Like the African American community, the Clintons were, very favored by the African American community. And this is a very unique year. I know for the Democratic Latinos that I know, many of them have shifted now to Obama, just like other Democrats who were for Hillary. So let's put that aside. There's no black-brown divide. With that said, when I went to the RNC, I did meet a group, Latinas for McCain, and they just seemed to be more, they were a coalition of former Richardson, former Clinton, former McCain, or President McCain folks who came together and decided to vote for McCain. But for the very same reasons that Puma, party, unity, my you-know-what, have decided to, not back Obama. So there's no black-brown divide.
Studies reveal that there is really a tension between black and brown in the lower income communities.
But let's understand the source of that. It is not because you're black and you're Dominican, or you're black and you're Puerto Rican, you're black and you're Colombian, whatever it is. You said low income. That has to do with economics. I mean, if you want to go to economic issue, make it an economic issue, that's fine. But for people to make this an issue of race, here in New York City, I mean, I'm a product of that. And there's no divide in my family. I'm a product of a Dominican mother and an African American father. So my experience is not that of a divide. but I know that a lot of it is based on economics.
And I thought Arabs were complicated.
Right. And
of course, if you take a look at the issue, the intricacy of the issue, it's not just like the skin color. It's not like black or white or brown. There are several confounding factors there, which is economics, education level, which is the achievement gap. There's so many variables that needs to be taken into consideration.
But again, it's based on economics.
Right.
And not, and it's irresponsible to, I'm not saying, you two, but it's irresponsible to just willy-nilly toss out black and brown divide and not make sure that people understand that that's all economics. It's all rooted in people who do not have a fair share of the economic pie.
Thanks to Sharon Toomer, Antoine Faisal, and Anthony Advincula. Now here's Abi Ishola with some other news making headlines in the ethnic media.
Thanks, Vianora. Here's a look at some stories from New York's ethnic media. Food prices are on the rise in Haiti after Hurricane Gustave and Tropical Storm Faye slammed into the island. The Haitian Times reports that much of the livestock and irrigation throughout the country were swept away or flooded out. This leaves the already food-starved nation even more deprived. The Amsterdam News reports that over 8 million blacks haven't registered to vote. Senator Barack Obama's voter registration drive is touring the country to reach potential voters before the October 8th deadline. A representative from the Obama camp says the black vote can make the difference in this election. From Caribbean Life, an immigrant advocacy group is calling for an end to the increase in deportation. The Families for Freedom organization recently held a rally in the Bronx to build awareness of a proposed legislation called the Child Citizen Protection Act. If passed, the law would help prevent deportation of immigrants who have U.S.-born children. In India, hundreds of people are still missing after the River Kosi flooded several areas in the region over 3 weeks ago. That from India Abroad. And finally, one group has managed to bounce back after a natural disaster. Hurricane Katrina nearly destroyed the Jewish community in New Orleans, but a report from Jewish World Long Island says the group has been re-energized after several Jews moved into the city. And those are just some of the headlines from New York's ethnic media. Back to you, Vianora.
Thanks, Abby. Pakistan recently held its elections. Asif Ali Zardari, the widower of former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, is now that country's president. The relationship between the U.S. and Pakistan continues to be a major international issue. Garry Pierre-Pierre talked with Pakistan Post editor Mohammad Farooqi about foreign policy and presidential politics.
The U.S. elections are in full swing right now, and Pakistan as an issue is dead center. What is your take of these candidates? First, Obama, and then McCain.
It's a very tight race right now. No one can predict who's going to win. But I always support Democrat, so I hope Obama will be win. But when I calculate things properly, so it's very hard to say Obama going to win.
Beyond sort of like who do you think will win or not, but where does he stand on the issues regarding Pakistan?
Historically, if we check the things, Republican always support Pakistan and Democrat little hard. But if I'm looking the things properly, because the Democrat always support democracy and support human rights and people things, and Republican always check our own interests. Obama have a little hard, towards Pakistan because of the war and terror. Always he keep calling Pakistan, we have to be pushed Pakistan, we have to go directly over there, which is Pakistani obviously don't like it.
It's interesting that you said Obama has been a little hard on Pakistan. He several weeks ago said that he would be willing to bomb inside Pakistan to go after Al-Qaeda terrorists. We see that the Bush administration has been doing precisely that, and McCain is in support of that.
As a journalist, the Obama and McCain, there is a very light difference between both
So
parties.
you think the differences are subtle more than anything towards Pakistan?
Exactly.
Why?
Because, Pakistan have a big problem right now. especially northern part of the country. A lot of terrorism going on over there. Al-Qaeda was sitting there and Taliban was there. So everyone is worried about, because of the peace of the world, you know, America feel insecure, Europe feel insecure. So people wants to be resolve this problem, and they have a feeling Pakistan not doing good enough, which is not true. I have a good contact with the people over there. Whatever they can do, they are doing. They have to be, you know, think about the country first.
Let me ask you this, Mohammed. Is McCain or Obama addressing these issues?
They want to be addressed, but right now everyone is busy in election. They want to be, first of all, get the power, then might be they're going to be addressed. If doesn't matter Obama or McCain, if they did not address the issue, believe me, world is not secure anymore. We have to do something over there. They send last 8 years, just look at the things, they send a lot of money, but people did not get properly.
What's the feeling of the community towards McCain or Obama? Your readers, people you talk to every day, what are they saying?
Most of the people of Pakistan who living in this country, they're supporting Obama. They have a feeling about Obama hard attitude also, but most of the people are Democrat. That's why we always say the Pakistani are the Democrat. They believe in democracy. But Pakistan, since 60 years, if you look at the history, 40 years we have army regime. And Republican always support the army regime. So that's why they have a little different feeling. But now the supporting country, 99% I believe Pakistan is supporting Democrat. But they want to be address the issue in Pakistan also, and they're trying to be explained to Obama, you know, the intellectual around him. If they're talking about to bomb Pakistan or go directly in Pakistan, is going to create the problem.
What kind of stories have you published on the election?
Every week we analytic story printing, what's going on exactly right now, what Obama doing and what Obama party doing and what McCain saying and what McCain party is saying, what is the survey saying, you know, who's going up and who's going to be win, especially whatever they're talking about Pakistan, so we highlight those things.
Stay tuned to Independent Sources. We'll be right back.
New York is about stories, about people, about neighborhoods. What things change, what things stay the same. I'm Wayne Swoboda, here in Flushing, Queens, the most ethnically diverse county in the country. I've worked as a journalist or professor in London and Africa, in Prague and Kosovo, in Moscow and Asia and Iowa. New York looks like all these places. It looks like the world. It looks like America. The Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York is a great place to roll up your sleeves and figure out how news happens. CUNY journalism students see the city's people and neighborhoods and changes up close. They listen, they watch, they ask questions, and they report back. I tell my friends the best way to find out is to go see. In the core class I teach on the craft of journalism, I send my students to neighborhoods like this one in Flushing. I help them learn how to find things out in this vibrant, powerful, complicated city, and then write a tight, pithy story on what they've seen. The process is a kick. Join us.
We end the show with Lotus Chau, who has made a name for herself as a hard-nosed reporter for one of the largest Chinese-language newspapers in New York, Tao Daily. Her style has earned her the respect not only of her colleagues, but of the politicians she pursues. Zyphus Lebron caught up with the roving reporter at the Republican convention.
Can I make a phone call to make sure that...
Lotus never sleeps. That's what colleagues say about Lotus Chau, chief reporter for Tao Daily.
Daily newspaper is very stressed because you got to submit your article every day, and then you got to talk to your editor every day. So I write a lot, and I'm in stress, and then my deadline is tight. And since Tao is one of the largest Chinese newspaper in the country, so it's also, you know, they are demanding.
Yes, the job is demanding, but Chau does not complain as she pounds the pavement in search of news. She brought her no-nonsense attitude to Denver and St. Paul, where she covered the Democratic and Republican conventions along with other reporters from the ethnic media. That tenacity and her catchphrase, empty talk, caught the eye of a New York Times reporter chronicling their travels.
I don't like empty talk and I don't like waste time. So I always like straightforward, to the point. When the politician or everybody that I interview, when they empty talk, just like you write 7 pages and then when you go home you find out that there's just one sentence you can quote, it pissed me off.
Still, she relishes the opportunity to grill government officials and pester politicians as Sing Tao's political reporter, a role she fell into after learning the inner workings of New York's political system as a translator and community liaison with then New York City Council member Catherine Freed.
At that time, not a lot of Chinese reporters who cover political news, because we just translate from New York Times or major newspaper. So when I start to work for Sing Tao, I don't really like secondhand news at all. So then I started, since nobody covers City Hall, let me start to cover City Hall.
11 years later, Chow was still covering City Hall for Sing Tao, earning herself a reputation as a bulldog reporter. But that was never her plan. When Chow arrived in the U.S. in 1989, she was on assignment for the Chinese magazine Hong Kong Bi-Weekly Film. Then events at Tiananmen Square rocked China and wrecked her plans to return.
I was traveling with my husband. At that time, he's a boyfriend. Then his father told him that, don't come back yet because he's in a chaos after Tiananmen Square in Hong Kong. So why don't you just stay for a while?
A while turned into 19 years, and Chow became the roving reporter known throughout her community. Ironic for someone who says she does not consider herself overly ambitious.
I never think about one day I will be a editor or chief editor in the newspaper. I was always like to report in the front line. I don't know what I'm going to do, maybe after 10 years.
For now, she says that she is comfortable toting her notepad and camera, training her lens on the world, looking for the Chinese perspective. Zyphus Lebrun, Independent Sources.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. And remember, be independent-minded.